What is up, people? This is That PlayStation Gamer. Today I am going to talk to you guys today about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the third and final Guardians of the Galaxy film being directed by James Gunn. Now, that doesn't mean there won't be any more Guardians of the Galaxy movies or the Guardians won't be in the MCU going forward, but it does kind of sound like this is the end of the incarnation of the Guardians of the Galaxy as we see them. And I figured I'd quickly talk about like my history with these movies, just because this is like the trilogy for me when it comes to the MCU. I know some people are more fans of Iron Man, some are more fans of Thor, stuff like that. For me, it was always the Guardians. The Guardians just, there's something about the idea of total misfits, just people who would never ever associate with each other if they had an opportunity, if they had a choice in it, but they band together and become a family. That's the best way to put it. Vin Diesel being part of this franchise also nice because, well, he loves his families. But I like the first one. I want to say I'm the biggest fan of the first one, but I felt like that was also the one that was like, they're definitely taking more risk with that one than they did with two. Because here's the thing about two. Two is like, okay, we already know the Guardians are a hit. We already know people like them. But Volume 1, that was like the risk, because this was like a very obscure part of the Marvel, world, Marvel Galaxy universe, whatever. Because not everyone is familiar with the Guardians of the Galaxy. And it was pretty damn good. I think the first one was fucking fantastic at times. I think there was, the only weak point really for me was Ronan himself. He was just kind of a weak villain. But it's like, that's just because, everyone's a weak villain compared to Thanos. Outside, like, maybe a handful of, like, actual other villains. Volume 2 got me in the feels, dude. That scene with Yondu, you know what scene I'm talking about. Just, that's what I want my comic book movies to have. I want them to have heart. It is clear as day James Gunn is a guy who cares about the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise. He cares especially about this, version, because it's his baby. This is what, in a lot of ways, salvaged his career. This is where a lot of people were like, man, he might not be the best director all the time, but man, when he hits it hard, he hits it hard. And yeah, Volume 2 is my favorite MCU movie. That's until Volume 3! And then, holy shit, I'm going to say this right now. We're not going to talk about any spoilers here, just because I don't want to ruin it for anyone. I don't want to ruin the experience for anyone when it comes to this movie, because if you are a big Guardians of the Galaxy fan, if you played like the game, if you watched the other two movies, you're going to get the most mileage out of this. You're going to get the most mileage out of like references. You're going to get mileage out of quick little cameos that I was in the theater, and I think I was the only one that notices like certain characters being in this movie. Everyone, like, most of the damn time in the theater, it was dead for me. Like, people just weren't, they didn't seem really interested in this movie. I was super interested. I teared up at a lot of points in this movie. To the point that I was just like, man, this might be my favorite MCU movie now. MCU movie, directly made by Disney and, Marvel and all that. Spider-Man's a whole different thing. But, yeah, this is easily in my top 5, if not top 3, because this one just, it feels like the conclusion. It feels like this is them saying goodbye to the characters that we all know and love. Incredibly flawed, deeply flawed people, but it was kind of heartwarming. It was kind of heartwarming to see these characters one more time. And man, I gotta say this was Rocket's movie. This is where we get the origin story of Rocket Raccoon. And if you guys are not familiar with his origin story, get ready. This origin story is so traumatic that I actually feel like kids shouldn't watch this movie. I am not saying that it is too dark for kids. I am not saying it's too messed up for kids. I'm thinking like legit kids might actually get a little scared at some of the parts of this movie, because the movie doesn't like get like super gory or anything. Sometimes there's like this one scene in particular where it gets kind of gory, but it's more of what they apply, what they say without saying. And with Rocket's backstory in particular, it's so heartbreaking. Like this poor little raccoon. I just wanted to hug him. But I love Rocket in this movie. Just like this is his movie. This is like whenever he was on screen, that was the best part. He didn't have to talk. There's scenes where he very rarely says anything, and you could tell exactly what he's thinking just by the facial expressions. I know, like, in more recent years, the Marvel, cinematic universe has been getting shit because CGI is not very good. This is where the CGI went. This is where, like, all the big budget CGI money went, because I could feel what Rocket's feeling. And, well, not to go into spoilers yet again, but other creatures and what they're feeling. And just, this was, like, to me, the most heartbreaking, emotional story that the MCU has ever told. And then we have the rest of the movie. The rest of the movie, see, like, this is where I kind of feel like I'm not going to say it's, like, the best movie ever. But there was also stuff in it that I really liked. So, I guess I talk about this, because technically it's not a spoiler for this movie in particular. But Gamora is in the movie, because this is the, I guess you would say, pre-Volume 1 Gamora from Endgame that got, put into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I really like how James Gunn played with this character, because he was like, okay, she's not the same Gamora. He uses that to his advantage, where he kind of uses her as an outsider looking in at the Guardians, and the Guardians are like, oh, you look exactly like the Gamora, our Gamora, and you'll remember. But I literally said this in the theater. I feel like I was a doofus, because I was almost talking to the screen when I said this. I said, she's not your Gamora. Peter has this scene where he's just like, oh, you'll just remember everything. Like, if she has amnesia. And I was like, no, she doesn't have amnesia. She doesn't have those memories because she's not your Gamora. And there's this scene where she just says, oh, I'll just leave. I'm like, then fucking leave. Because, I'm going to be honest, she was a bit of a D-bag. But that's kind of the point, though. She's kind of a bad person where she has good moments. She's like pre-Gamora, pre-Guardians 1 Gamora. And she hasn't had that, seed of doubt before betraying Thanos. This is more like she was still kind of indoctrinated. I even like how her and Nebula have this whole thing where they don't really even talk to each other. That was the funny part. They don't even really talk to each other. They just go, I like that. It was kind of like their way of talking to each other without talking to each other. Nebula in this film, dude. Oh my god. There's a scene in this movie. Nebula's actor fucking nailed it. Like, just, you could tell that she's playing her all into this character. Everyone felt like they were delivering a great performance. Well, except for one person. And I'm going to say this. This might be a little controversial, but I feel like Chris Pratt was kind of phoning it in a little. I'm not saying that he was phoning it in all the time, but early in the movie, you could kind of tell he's starting to get back into the groove of the character. And it's like, dude, I don't know, man. Like I said, it's the early parts in the movie that I was like, I wish he was back. I wish he was, the Peter Quill we all knew and loved, but he's got a little bit of problems. But overall, like I said, I think this is one of the better MCU movies. I think this is a very fulfilling movie. I think this is the final Guardians of the Galaxy movie we all needed. I think this is a great way for them to just be like, here's our bow on these characters that you love. Maybe they'll show up in other movies. Maybe they'll show up in TV shows. Maybe they'll get their own TV shows. We don't know. From what I understand, and I don't know if this is 100% true, but I thought I heard a while back there was a rumor that Rocket and Groot were going to get their own show. Or, a movie. That this was kind of like the compromise, because I guess that just didn't go through. And yeah, I could kind of see that, because this was mostly dominated by Rocket, and what made it so good is that the relationship all these people have with Rocket and each other. And Mantis and Drax in this movie, by the way, they just remind me of a brother and sister duo. It was absolutely hilarious. So, overall, my thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is highly recommend. I would not say a 10 out of 10. I say 8 out of 10. I think the movie does very good at what it does, but there are points where the movie kind of dips a bit, mostly with stuff like Adam Warlock, where they just, oh yeah, he's just kind of there. Even though like he was a post credits thing, he was supposed to be this big deal. It feels like someone nudged James Gunn, like, hey dude, you know you hinted at Adam Warlock, right? He'd be like, fuck, that's right, I gotta use him. So it's like, for what it could have been like he could not be in the movie at all. I'm actually kind of glad he was in the movie because it was also kind of part of this story arc. Whereas Bruce says something where it's just like it's so profound, so thought provoking, and of course it's I Am Groot. But there is actually something that happens in this movie. I don't think people understand why it happens, but I think it makes sense if you think about it from a certain context. And, yeah, I'm going to say it involves Groot. I'm not going to spoilers. But maybe the audience is more part of the Guardians of the Galaxy than we think. So until next time, guys, this is That PlayStation Gamer. Just kind of off-the-cuff review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Fantastic film. Highly recommend it. Peace out. Have a good day. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all the YouTube algorithm BS. Bye.